Hey everybody, Gears here, and yesterday's plan was to have the help of a buddy removing the hood and the door hinges, swapping those out. He had to bail, and so I wound up working on this instead. The upshot of it is that all these little arrows point to problem areas. So depending on where the light is, so I can't see too much on the screen because of the brightness, but you can probably walk yourself along this area and get, I can't quite, oh, there we go, up in there. So I've been calling this a scar, but really it's a boundary layer, the boundary between two different materials that are shrinking and reacting two different ways to what's happening to them. I almost had them hidden a few times, but apparently the last sanding I did wiped out those repairs and brought it down lower. Highlight on this side, shadow on that side suggests this is just a crevice rather than an actual plateau, ridge line. Whereas over on this side, this one came back out of nowhere. This one is definitely higher on this side than it is in that, and this is a ridge, whereas this seems to be a chasm. Down here, it's definitely a ridge. Because this stuff had almost go away, I'm hopeful that maybe one last pass of really wet JB weld strung along the top of all that, wet faded out, will solve everything. This keeps coming and going. I'm guessing the camera is picking that up. Almost kind of like a meteor strike or something, but that had gone away. So I'll have to address that. Down here, bit of a bevel on this edge. I want to get that closer to perpendicular. There's a little bit of a gap in there that needs to be filled. Sharpen that bevel right there and then fill in that gap. Up here, there's a few notes all around for little places to hit. I'm sure this whole bottom line needs some work, but definitely that chip right in there. Up here, it's more of a gap than a line, but there's definitely a harshness in there. Maybe I'll get rid of it. And this line sort of comes and goes depending, but that's a line that goes all the way there. Oh. And this blister is new, that's from the sun. So that should go away once I get it out of the light. A couple more little babies. And then this stuff here. On each side, there and there, that has to be leveled out. From here to here, I'm going to be filling in this dip so that this ridge line is a surface going that way. Over here, I got to trim that down maybe a millimeter. Over here, it's maybe 2 or 3 millimeters. These dotted lines represent where I want the fade to go out to. All the deep scratches in here are pretty obvious. Those got to go a little bit over here. But clean up all this, and this is going to be ready to go. One last chance. My guess is that because it's material boundary, that this is never going to go away if I don't hide it this time. And if that's the case, it will go away once I have a casting of it, because that will be a single material and much easier to deal with. And speaking of the casting, let's go back over here. There's these crazy green lines. So when I took measurements of the car, because there's no way for me to phase shift myself into the center of this body and take a direct measurement going straight down to the ground below it, you got to eyeball. The best trick that I did was to take a pole over here, marked it out, put a pole across the top, and kind of got an average of where it was. But even then, is the pole exactly straight? Is that perpendicular to the ground exactly when I take the measurement? Is the ground itself level? There's probably a 1 or 2 degree angle in the driveway here alone, just so everything drains to that side. There's definitely pitched ground out there to help the drainage. So what is flat, what is straight, what is level are all these questions, and they're all relative to each other. And being relative, taking the pole up there, I took the pole down here. There is depending on how you measurement, there could be an 8 to 12 inch variance between whatever height that really is and whatever height this really is. And yeah, you can sort of work your way around here, but without actual levels, or rather survey tool like quality kind of stuff where you know everything is getting level, and shooting lasers all over the place, which I don't have. Even if I had a little laser pointer and aimed it this way, the slightest bit on or off is going to be degrees worth of difference. So without quality level surveyor grade materials to figure out what these actual heights are relative to each other, it's ballpark guessing. So when Paul came over with Guy the other day, the other week now really, he kind of did, he eyeballed around and he came up with about 10 inches. And there's about an 8 to 12 inch where I said that this could be different. This is closer to an 8 inch difference. I figured if it's really close, I can do the pedestal so that it sets the droid dome level. If it's kind of close, I can shim the entire thing to whatever degree. But let's say it's catastrophically wrong. What am I going to do? Start all over? No chance. Abandon the project? No, no chance of that either. Consequently, I've come up with these green lines. These are theoretical places that I could cut the form and rejig it into the new position it needs to be. Presuming this is relatively flat and straight where it is, then the hinge point is right where the window starts and the trunk begins. So cutting a line either straight across, because the window is going to shift its relative angle, so the line might even come back here because the window is round. Cut that there and then swoop up to maintain this general shape, which means I would have this piece, and I may even have to separate the turret itself from that as well, that I can then move those 3 pieces relative to each other while still hopefully being somewhat attached to each other. Maybe, maybe not, depending on how this is all cut and so on. So at worst, I'll be dealing with 3 separate pieces all of a sudden. And no, it's not a great thing. However, from there, I'll be working with a single material instead of 5, 7, 10 different materials I've used over time to put this thing together. And that'll be a lot easier, especially because it's fiberglass. So, catastrophic contingency plan, chop, reform it, and it'll be a lot easier to do. No more of this little nonsense with bubbles showing up here and there and little dents because you happen to hit something wrong or so on and so forth. So that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. See ya.